And welcome. You're listening to the Disaster Podcaster. I'm your host, Clark Brown. We're going to be talking about the restoration industry. We're going to talk about the projects that we run, the challenges that we face, and the people that make up this industry. We're going to sometimes just have conversations, and sometimes we're going to have great, incredible guests. Whatever we do, it's going to be real, it's going to be authentic, and it's going to be fun. So we're glad you made it, and I hope you enjoy it. So this week we sat down with three incredible contractors out of California. Adam Redhead with Hero Restoration, Robert Hidajit with Blue Van Restoration, and Stewart Barrios with Allied Restoration. So all three of them had unique perspectives on their experiences in the business and what they do, but they all were very attached to the topics that we wanted to talk about. So I hope you enjoy. Welcome. Well, we've got a special session today. This is called the California Clan. Welcome to the Disaster Podcaster with Clark Brown and the Restoration Advisors. Today, we have a couple of topics that kind of were formulating for a discussion. And I started thinking about people that I knew that were good and strong in areas of some of these topics. And it just so happened that they all happened to be California current residents. And I said, well, let's just make this a themed event. So we've got three really good, strong professional remediation restoration professionals that I've known for years, and I consider friends and colleagues, and certainly all people that I have reached out to in the past for, some advice or something that, I know I don't know everything. So I want to kick it off and let everybody introduce themselves. And Stewart, tell us about you.
Yeah, so my name's Stewart Barrios. I'm the current general manager for Allied Restoration. We do it all from water, mold, smoke, fire remediation. We're a full GC. Recently, we added contents division. We added a duct cleaning division. So we're pretty experienced in the industry now, and we've grown to a position where we have the ability now to do some cat work. So right now, I'm currently in Texas, but this is the California clan. So we're doing some cat work out here. I'm newer to the industry compared to most. I'm going only in my fifth year, so I'm still learning, still growing. But that's kind of a little bit about myself.
You're in LA, right? The better Los Angeles area.
Yeah, office is in West Covina.
West Covina.
Yeah.
So just for everybody listening, he left this out, but Allied is owned by OP Alvarez. Everybody probably knows OP, Restoration Mastery, the warrior of the industry. And your company, Allied, you're undershadowing. You guys have a very niche market with a high net worth. At least that's the area that you really dive into. Check out OP, check out Stewart and Allied on social media. They've both been on, Tim Bauer and OP have both been on TED Talks. And their culture of their company is just incredible. They do boot camps to help other companies dive into that type of culture. So thanks for all that you guys contribute, not only to your customers, but to our industry. And y'all are great partners of mine. So love it.
Definitely.
Right below him is Robert. Robert, tell us a little about yourself and where you're from and your background.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks, Clark. Thank you. I really appreciate you for having me. I'm in Southern California, but I'm in a small town called Lake Arrowhead. It's about an hour and a half east of LA. So this is my fourth year in business. So I also do water, fire, mold remediation work. I do mostly mold and mold inspection. So I do work on the mold inspection side. I do work a lot with a lot of mold sensitive individuals and also work with some clinics around the area, even all the way down to Orange County. That refers me some work because, as you know, Clark, so we own the Instascope instrument and we're the only one in the whole state of California that has it. So we are able to do real-time mold inspections and provide real-time results. So.
It's great. And I've watched you grow and you're doing good this year. Y'all are having a really strong start of 2021.
Right, right. Actually, I was worried about last year, but actually last year we actually ended up pretty good, almost kind of break even compared to 2019. And then this year, so far, our first few months has been really good. So
Good. Well, good for you. Yeah, the Instascope is such a unique piece of equipment, you know, and I know it has a lot of people don't know exactly what it does. We could certainly, they could look that up, but I know it contributes a lot to the success of your business. And then Adam, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, hey, good afternoon, gents. So my name's Adam Redhead. I own Restoration Heroes. We're based down here out of Irvine, covering Orange County and the surrounding areas. We launched. Stewart is a veteran in the business compared to some of us. I launched this company about a year and a half ago, without much prior industry experience. My background is sales and marketing, team building, more on the business side of things, and so I've incorporated, I think, a fresh, unique strategy to the restoration industry, or at least in our area, really customer focused, customer service focused. And in terms of the trade and really learning and understanding the trade, I've just spent a lot of time asking questions, trying to work with people that know a lot more than me, staying really open. And I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by some pretty incredible individuals, Clark being one of them, you know, that we call every once in a while and ask questions. And got to fly around, go to different academies, schools, and
he got stuck in the Zoom zone.
Uh-oh.
Frozen there. Let's give him a second to come back, Adam.
First one down.
Yeah, it won't be the last, I bet. Take off 5 points for Adam. Penalty on the field. First down. All right. We'll give Adam a second to come back. I wanted to tell everybody, Adam was able to experience something really, really great right after our event in Boulder. He had met some people there. He obviously met a lot of people, but he flew out to Columbus, Ohio, and spent a week with another restorer. Said, I want to be part of your team and your company for a week. And that is such an immersive experience when you have a predetermined idea of what this is going to look like. And then you go see someone that's really, really doing it very, very well. And he said he came back to his market. He's dropped off. He'll probably come back on in a minute. And he said, listen, I came back home, went back to the blueprint and redesigned my idea because I saw you got to peek behind the curtain of what somebody else was doing. It took them a long time to learn it. And he flattened that curve a little bit. So we'll get started. I do expect Adam to come back here in a minute. He was really excited about some of the topics. I've worked out a few questions here. We're going to do a little bit of more interactive style. I wanted to tell you, and I started this thing out with the three of you, and when Adam comes back, I know that you all three are big on customer service and customer relations. And I wanted to talk there. I've had conversations with my peers and with other people. It's in this world of emergency service, it seems to be a dying art because of how busy we are and the sense of urgency of taking that time to build a good repertoire of understanding and onboarding your customers and listening and becoming, and in your case, especially both of you, more of a diagnostics approach and not just this is what we're going to do because this is how we do everything. Meet them where they are. So I just wanted to talk a little bit and give you each a chance to what's driven you to that, and is that something you feel like you're great at, or you still want to get better at it, or something like that. So Robert, tell us about your approach when you already mentioned you meet with people who might have a reported illness. So that's already telling me that you've got a focus there.
Right. So for me, since when I was just starting, we're just, we're a one-man show, right? We just take any job that we can take, and we're not driven by volume, right? We're not like, oh, we can only spend this much time with each customer or anything like that. So I do spend as much time as I need. I think that initial interview with the customer, especially when you're dealing with mold and mold issues, a lot of the times I realize is that a lot of the clients is just happy to have somebody actually listen to them and believe them that they have all these issues, or they have certain rooms in the house that they're just don't feel good about in those rooms. So because a lot of the times they get dismissed, and a lot of the times people just don't listen to it. And so in my case, again, I do spend as much time as I need. A lot of the times I do spend quite a bit of time trying to understand their situation before prescribing a solution. And not just their health condition, but also, budget issues and stuff like that. We work with them as needed. So
can you give me an average of how much time? I know that's a broad topic, but give us an idea of how long you might spend with onboarding a customer, especially if you're dealing with a very niche market like you are.
Yeah, so when on the mold inspection side, usually my initial time when I do an initial interview, I would say I would spend anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour, and I usually don't charge even for that. So I only charge when I actually come out. Because a lot of the times, sometimes they just need somebody to listen to, to completely understand their issues. So
yeah, that's very true. Stewart, you got something to add to that topic?
No, I want to piggyback off what he said. I think for us, understanding your client's needs is important. Early on, I know Tim used to give me the nickname, the chameleon, right? Because, yes, our niche is with a private client, high net worth celebrities, right? But at the same time, we still do middle market homes. And so, our goal is to provide the same service to both, but the client's needs are different. One client, money might not be an issue because, they're a celebrity, they have high-end homes. Time is what they want, right? How can we collapse time and get them through the claims process, whereas someone else is more money conscious? And so for us, you have to spend that time up front. How or what do you need from us to make this experience the right one? And then from there, then you execute. So taking that time up front, I know some of the things we do with the initial inspection is we have forms. How do you want to be communicated with? From there, what is most important to you? What are your expectations? If I take you to the end of this job, what are something that you would have wanted to see? And so taking that time up front for us is important because it gives you the guideline of, okay, how am I going to wow this client, right? Versus just going in gun ho and you're like, let's get the dryers in there, let's get this. It's a lot of planning and then executing for us.
Yeah, one thing I think also both of you have said it around the term, but it's setting expectations. Nothing builds trust more than the customer having a good understanding of what's going to happen next. Because if they're having to guess, their mind plays tricks on. And so I would piggyback off that. Adam, we're talking about the ability to approach a customer, have a really good onboarding process, and having a diagnostics mindset, and then being really good at being flexible and providing solutions. And I guess I would go back to each one of you. I think Robert answered it, but do you interact with the customer on every job? Like you're the general manager, Stewart, and Adam, you're the owner. What are your topics on that?
Yeah, so I would say for myself, I probably interact with about 80 to 85% of all of our clients. Or when I was operations manager, it was every single client, right?
Gotcha.
As soon as they signed the contracts, we would do an initial kind of introduction. So we have a Zoom call. It's transitioned a little bit of how we do it now because of COVID and everything's kind of going more online. We do an intro Zoom. And so that intro Zoom is every single person that is going to be interacted with during the claims process of the reconstruction phase. So you have our customer service liaison. You have the accountant who's going to be calling for money essentially to get paid. And then you have the superintendent and the project manager, right? So the PM signs the contract, then you go into everyone else that's going to be interacted. So before we used to find sometimes where, the accountant's asking for payment and it's like, who are you, right? Where's my superintendent? Where's my PM? So we've tried to change that so then everyone who's going to be involved with the client is on that call. And, you get to put a face to it and you get to build rapport that way.
Nice. So you actually have a team and you let them know that this is a group of us all diving into that. So that's great. Adam, what is your mindset around the onboarding and the diagnostics? Do you do most of the onboarding with customers?
No, so we have an office manager who answers phones and then dispatches the team. So I don't do I don't do much of the intake. I get involved more so on an oversight level when there's tricky drying situations or problems. Like I get called all the time when problems are coming up. So
you're the firefighter, right?
I'm a great firefighter apparently. So, but one of the things that I like to touch on that I don't know if was mentioned before. Sorry, I was having connectivity issues and I just had to get in here with my phone. But I think there's a strategy that we take, which is it's all the nonverbal communication. Like what does our business say? Just out in the community, right? What's the branding say? What sort of conversations being had about our company online? We pay attention to and care a lot about the conversation that's being had around us, whether that's something that they see or read about us or, what they're hearing, from their friends. So we really try to do our best to influence that conversation in a positive way. So before they call us, they kind of get to know us a little bit. When we answer that first phone call, it's the exact same thing. It's the tone in the operator's voice. It's being empathetic about their situation. It's saying, I'm sorry, you're going through this. It's listening, spending a lot more time listening. One of the things that I heard Stewart and Robert both say, it is around capturing information from the customer. You can't do that when you're talking.
Right.
So the more time we spend listening and asking questions throughout the process, from that very first phone call to when our lead technician or project manager is going out to actually sell the job, we're really spending a lot of time asking questions, listening. That's what allows us to get the information we need to tailor what we can to those clients' needs. Otherwise, it's we all think we know it all. I can go out there and be like, oh, I know what Clark wants, and I know what Robert wants, I know what Stewart wants, and here, let me just tailor my program for you. But there's things that are oftentimes uncovered through listening and asking questions that wouldn't otherwise know. So we spend a lot of time, training that specific, part of the process.
I love it, and I think that's a good approach. And one thing I've always found is, maybe that part you have mastered, all of us have that mastered, but then what's that mechanism that gets that recorded in the job notes, or how is that transferred to the guys actually doing the work? So it's great that we ask the customer, and I used to ask the question of all my clients, what could I do that would probably not make you happy? And that might be not tell me about something that gets broken, right? That would be, or something like that. And then the very worst thing that can happen is we break something and don't tell them and try to hide it. So they would say, you went through all this to listen to me, but it did nothing because you actually did the opposite of what I said. So I always ask, what's the most important thing to you in this transaction? Is it time? Is it money? Like Stewart said, I may be thinking your living room has that gorgeous furniture, but you're worried about the room where your mother-in-law lives the most. And that's the least impacted, but you want that to be the most taken care of. So really some good answers. And
so I have one quick thing to add, Clark, real quick.
Yeah.
So to me, we're in this disaster restoration business is completely different than, like a retail transaction. So our relationship with the customer is a relationship. It's not a transaction, right? Because usually we're in their home for a long time. Mm-hmm. And at least for a certain amount of time. And, the most important thing in relationship is communication. So
it is.
Yeah, because a lot of the times, the customer doesn't know that you have the best equipment, or, you put the equipment in the perfect way or whatever. But the little things usually is because of either lack of communication or too much communication sometimes could be an issue. Those are the things that leads to bad reviews or customers not being very happy. To me, is and different people in the same household, maybe the husband and the wife could have completely different communication method. Maybe the husband wants every little details on how things are done. Maybe the wife just wants to know that it's done. So you just have to kind of work with all those different personalities and figure it out, because again, you're building a relationship. You're not just a transactional type company. So
that's a great point.
I kind of want to second that what Robert just said. Is like, to a certain extent, you can think you have the best communication. Like, I'm sending you daily updates, and you might have a high-powered attorney client that's like, I already get enough emails,
Yeah.
Don't send it. So knowing that up front, that again, like Adam said, you tailor the experience of the client. So
yeah, I don't have a cookie cutter product. I don't do cookie cutter. This is around the Johnson family, and I agree with. I love that you've added that. But there's an old saying that it's said either with if you treat all your kids the same, you'll be wrong half the time, and that's what's so. And the same thing with your friends. If you treat all your friends like you think, you're going to probably not have that many friends. That's why you end up with one good friend, because he just most like you. But it's meeting people where they are, and that's just, that might be easy for the four of us, but man, we have to work on training our techs those skill sets too.
Right.
And that's the person that the customer is really going to see the most and trust over and over and over. So we have to arm them with that ability, or don't put them in a position where. I love to do culture indexing. I love to get personality tests. If I've got a technician that is a wallflower and is a reclusive, scared of his own shadow, he's probably not going to be great with interacting with the customer, especially maybe a high-profile customer that has demanding needs. And so I wouldn't set them in that place and put them up to fail, because that'll just mean a failure for them, for us, and everybody else around. Anything to add before I jump to the number two? Not the real number two. Not the real number two.
You brought up a good point that I think we could dive deeper into. Spend probably a lot of time, but you asked about what do you do internally to flow that communication, right? If they communicate to you, right, how does that translate to the next person who's dealing with them? I really like what Stewart had brought up about let's have a team call, right? If they have a team call with the client, everybody's really on the same page of what's going on with that client, so they can understand how to interact and how to incorporate. It really gets not just from the client side, but I can see the value that would bring on the team side. One of the things that we do is we have, our systems will document, from out of the gate, if there's special requests, if, they have kids, at school in the morning, then we need to, be coming back and doing dry checks in the afternoons, or, if there's health issues or, whatever, that gets noted, and everybody that's going out to that job has access, and it's part of our, our checklist to review those notes on each client before they walk in, so that those notes can get translated. I think it's really important. The other.
Yeah, we lost him because so we lost him. Well, I like where he's going. He's just like, capturing that information. So, again, that's a very big topic. I wish more people did it. There's Adam again.
Yeah, when you have a team, I think the worst thing that can happen is if one person tell the customer one thing, and then another person tell the customer a different thing, and that
happens from the bottom up. From technician, just one technician saying one wrong thing can make its way all the way to the adjuster, and the adjuster is now thinking like, what's going on, and then that impacts the PM, the company, the experience. Yeah, making sure they know where that line is of, okay, if you don't know, don't think just say, hey, revert it back to the party that knows. But one of the things I wanted to touch on with what Adam's saying, one of the things that we found successful, right, for the claims process from the day you meet to the day you're done, in transitioning the needs of the client, our PMs on their initial inspection, they'll fill out what we call a job card, right? The job card has the expectations or the most important needs of the client. In addition to that form, there's another form that's called Getting Ready for Construction, which lists if you have any pets, what's the designated bathroom that you want used on the job, right? Those things, once the job is signed and contracts are signed, that makes it to the file of the superintendent. And so what I tell the superintendents is, hey, when you do your initial inspection with the client, read that off to them, right? Because then the client knows, wow, they listened. The PM who I met 3 weeks ago, right, from the initial inspection, after all the negotiations, and the superintendent on the first day says, hey, I know you have the dog named Billy, whatever, and this is the bathroom you want to use, and this is the things that I need to make sure I meet for you. And they remember that, and they're like, oh, they're talking, And it's just something as simple as one single form that you can take from the beginning and then just input it into wherever CRM software you're using.
I love that. I have an example of last year. One of my clients, he called me and he said, oh my gosh, we got such a bad review. And he said, take a look at our reviews. And he sent it to me. And so they had said on their website and on their, all of their advertising during COVID, we decontaminate and clean all of our equipment before each and every job. Well, the customer showed up, they had a job, and the customer is filming them unloading the truck, and the equipment coming into the house is filthy. And that went straight to their Google review saying, how is it that they made such a big deal of what they do? So it's just really a big black eye. And obviously that's not what they intended. That was just there wasn't a QC for that. They wanted to make sure, but it's just when what you say you're going to do doesn't match what you do, nothing else you say after that really doesn't help, and you've lost them. You can do 100 things right, but you do one thing wrong, right? So I'm that way as a consumer as well. The second thing I want to talk about is, this is not related to that, but I think it is. Earlier this week, I'm part of a lot of online forums. I speak on some groups and stuff like that. And the typical situation, someone posted a picture of a job site that it was adequate. And I thought it looked really good, as a matter of fact. But you know how it goes. If you're going to put a picture on there, the internet will deliver with the wrath of whatever they want that day. And there were a lot of negatives, of course, but even the ones that were constructive, or what I consider to be, we care about what you're doing and we used to be where you are. Here's some things you might do differently. And this this one case, he probably was already embarrassed because of whatever, but he had nothing. He could not take constructive criticism. He had excuses for everything. But I think that speaks to a bigger cultural thing in our world now, is that everyone's perfection lens is so bright that you've got to be on Instagram all the time. But constructive criticism has become really hard for some people. And I think that's a huge lost opportunity to get better. And I wanted to talk to, I am absolutely, you can't see it, I've got a sign on my another wall. My biggest successes came from my biggest failures. And I just wish that would be people. I don't know if it's thick skin or what it is, but do you guys what are your opinions on constructive criticism in your own company, in your own life, or whatnot? Robert?
All right. Okay.
You're a Nazi.
Yeah, no, this is kind of tricky because with today's world, right? Everybody, wants something instant, and they're used to doing things instantly because it's so easy to do, right? But today, I think I would say one of the most important thing you need to learn is to take a deep breath or to sleep on it because before you do anything, because whatever's on social media, it stays there forever. Sometimes people could be searching Google for your name and all these weird stuff might come up. So you really need to think twice. And it's just, I'm not sure what's going on, but it seems like recently, for some reason, people have a lot of anger or rage, it seems like they get so worked up so easily than before. I'm not sure what it is, but I wonder if it's just, again, overload of media. It's just causing you to be anxious all the time, and you always feel like you have to defend yourself. So it's just tricky, but I think if you learn to take a deep breath, take a second, I think that's definitely very important.
I agree. I like, if I'm working on a piece of something, like a piece of content or something, or I send it to other people saying, I would rather you, who I trust, tell me, is this garbage or is this okay? Or what would you do? How could I be better? Because I know I don't know everything, but some people would say, I don't want people to criticize what I do. Therefore, also that makes people freeze and not do anything and take no risk. But yeah, the whole political thing, I think we have been reprogrammed for the last year that everything is binary. It's either this or that. You're on this team or you're that team. And that it has hurt relationships from, businesses, people, their families, even inside your own home. It has taught a lot of people, especially young people, that if someone can't accept, and they take it as not accepting, but it says, just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean I don't accept what you believe in. And it's just become very confusing. But I have just found that the skin has gotten thinner and thinner and thinner because of expectations. But Stewart, you have anything about that?
Someone speaking from the younger generation, you definitely tell. This day and age, as everything begins to move more to technology, over the phone, email, and social media, you're starting to see a lot more things get lost in translation, right? Yeah. And I do agree that everything's more binary now, right? It's either yes or no. You either agree or you don't. There's no open lines of communication to, okay, let's sit down and have a conversation. And so for you, you commenting on a post with having like, you want to help them, right? But to them, it's like, oh, here comes another one, right?
Right.
And they may even read it in a different tone, and so if they're reading it in their head with a different tone, they're seeing it as something offensive, when it's like, no, man, I genuinely want to help you. And I feel definitely with, I don't want to get politics into this and all of that, but you're starting to see that more, and now people are starting to speak more. But that conversation, if you don't want to have it, then becomes something offensive.
Right. It's a tricky thing. Again, there can be unconstructive criticism. There can just be anger and people who want to be heard. But I just was, I wish our society, younger people, older people, listen, I'm older and I don't understand digital media nearly as much as some people. People had to tell me, Clark, that stuff you're putting out on your Facebook stuff, it's hot garbage. It looks like, it looks #bad. And I said, well, can you help me tell me what good looks like? Absolutely. Since you asked, because I come from a sports background.
Right.
I was a baseball player. Listen, I thought I could play well until I went to the next level, and those guys throw fast and hard. What was good for me before, I needed criticism saying, you swing like a girl. Okay, well, help me swing like a guy, or nothing wrong with swinging like a girl as long as you can hit.
So I have one quick thing to add. I think to me, it seems like social media is kind of partly to blame, because it seems like it turns everybody into a teenager, kind of, because they're not only thinking about replying, but they're thinking about, oh, how can I reply with the perfect one-liner that I get a lot of likes on this reply, right? So sometimes that's kind of plays in their minds, and sometimes they, their replies turns to become more, short and snappy. I don't know. It's just
there's a bit of vanity to a lot of people's contributions to social media, and again, we all used to be. We started the Restoration Rebels group, and we came from a place of really having a really good desire to build a forum where people of all different sizes and types. But it kind of, as it grew, it kind of took a life of its own. It got to be 10,000, 8,000 people, and the negative comes in, and that's always, not everybody has the ability to shut that out, like mentally. It doesn't mean I have to respond to something I don't like.
Right.
But people say, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to show them. I'm going to be the hero, the Lone Ranger. But yeah, so I just wanted to hit. It was maybe that topic fell flat, but because I just wish more people would say, if you're coming at me with truly constructive, innovative criticism, how much is that worth? It's worth everything. And the same says to me, if you see somebody not doing something right, I think we should probably speak up, and don't say nothing at all so they continue to do it wrong, and help them. They may say, wow, thank you. I didn't know that my tail was hanging on my shirt and I'm about to be on live TV or something like that. That's Stewart. Right. Stewart's kind of like a movie star.
Yeah. I would say if you're getting those kind of constructive criticism and somehow you feel kind of a little bit offended by it, I would just say, take a deep breath and think about how you can ask them questions to expand on it. Sometimes that would just diffuse the situation. And also, they might explain things more. Say, oh, I didn't quite understand. What do you mean? Yeah. And then sometimes they might expand to it and gives you more good advice. Then you will be able to take it better once you understand a little bit more than just that one sentence. So.
Or say, hey, let's pick up the phone and have a phone conversation. Because I may not be reading this in the right cadence in the way that you mean it. I may be misunderstanding. I have a friend, a industry colleague that I met 3 years ago almost in Salt Lake City at the Xactimate conference. What's that called, Stewart? Is it Elevate?
Elevate, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was there for something else, but I don't really use Xactimate. But this person, she's going to be on my podcast in a few weeks and we're going to tell the story, but I'm going to, she came up to me, like straight up to me, like had just all kinds of courage and said, "You're that guy from the Rebels group, aren't you?" I said, "I am." She goes, I got some things to say to you. And she kind of sat there in front of 4 other people and dressed me down and like really took me and challenged me on a lot of different things. And I was like, wow, she really feels passionate about this stuff. It ended up being, she misunderstood most of everything that she read a piece or a snippet. Her and I are very close friends now. And it's just, we got past that. I said, I understand how that might have sounded. And we might have some different views on some things, but here's where I come from. And this is the only thing, but I can be converted or we can just both live inside that. But I was able to sit there and some people, the person that was with me says, man, I would have taken her finger and say, quit pointing that finger at me. But I knew that's how she wanted to express it. And now we laugh about it. She's like, I kind of came at you like a pit bull. I said, yes, you did. And I respect you for it. So it's really a funny story that we're going to tell in a few weeks. Hey guys, let's we're kind of deep into the call now. I want to jump on one more topic. And we kind of talked about this before. So you both are in the world of doing mold remediation. And Stewart, you're actually in Texas right now. So this is very relevant to you. But Robert, you live inside the world of mold remediation. You're a big follower of the IEQA and all things assessment. The Texas DLR, the Texas Department of Licensing and Responsibility.
Oh, it's no. So it's, hold on, where'd it go?
I probably said it right.
Department of Licensing and Regulation.
Regulation. So they see right now in the state of Texas, they publish a new bulletin based on their abbreviation of some of the regulations for this declaration, which was just the high notes. And I wanted to ask you both what they were. So just for those who don't know, Texas is a regulated state for mold remediation. You must have a license that you go through their course, their class, their guidelines, as well as the length of time that your company's been open and prove that you've used and passed clearance on. So there are some guidelines, and it really comes from a place where there was a lot of abuse in Texas for a long time for mold. But now what we're facing is, Stewart, maybe 1 in 5 structures have some type of damage, I've heard. And that's caused a lot, it's just a real drag and lag in time of how much mitigation is getting done because of just the sheer number of projects that is. And this is going to turn into mold as well as improperly dried. So what the state has done is said, we're going to lift up a few of the components of the licensing for a period, which is right now not determined until they reassess it. So there's no notification required. You don't have to notify the state that you're starting a project. You do not need, and it's not required to get a mold assessment done on a project, which has been done. And then lastly, if you're not licensed down in the state, you have a process you can go through to register. You can email the state with about 4 different topics, business, does anybody have AMRT, et cetera, what kind of work are you doing? And then you now can address and do mold remediation, but you're still going to be held to the best practices of mold. And the state could still find out that you're doing bad work and you still fall under the jurisdiction of them. So that's been lifted, kind of means that a lot of people can come into the state and do it. So I wanted to talk to Stewart. Your boots on the ground, you're obviously starting to see some microbial impact in a large way. And what are your thoughts on this?
It's definitely there. I want to say every single job now has mold. We were lucky for a short period of time because of the temperature. It was still, a little bit colder, but sun's out 75, 80 degrees. So I think it's good opportunity for those that know what they're doing. And it's great risk for those that don't. The liability for someone coming in here we're not licensed in California. So if I speak on a California company, you don't need it right back home, but some are still trained, they still follow the IICRC mold standards. And so For those that don't and want to say, hey, this is a good opportunity to make money, let's come out here, you're going to be open to a lot of liability, right? Because we're in that phase now where it's turned from water mitigation to mold remediation, and then it's going to turn from mold remediation to PAs and lawyers and attorneys trying to get involved in. If you're in there and you do your thing and you leave, which a lot of companies, I don't want to name them. I already have a job that I just went to yesterday, which I'm cleaning up for another company. Same thing. They went in there, they didn't do the proper water mitigation, and now it turned into a mold situation, and they're out. No one can get a hold of them. And so you open yourself now for that liability. So I see the two sides of the coin. I see opportunity for those that have the resources to come out here and provide service, provide a good, clean job. What I would recommend is if you're going to do it, get a post-mold clearance. Do it anyways, even if it's going to be under your dime. If the carrier doesn't want to pay for it, it's an investment there that's going to outweigh in the long run. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Okay.
Great. And I want to get to Robert in a second, but Stewart, what I see is a huge missed opportunity that we all have, like with air or whatever it is. The public needs an education about what's happening. They don't understand any of this. They just said, hey, I've got insurance, they're supposed to carry. I'm worried that carriers are going to start saying we don't cover mold, or we have limits, which are a lot of them. The truth is, the source was still the water damage that was an unbelievable, unprecedented number of claims. There weren't enough people to get to all these homes, or adjusters that were showing up to do inspections to kind of give guidance. And I'm worried about people that are going to be faced with homes that now have mold, but only from their water damage. And I think that should be a covered peril. But I'm not speaking to policy language, but I see that you mentioned attorneys and PAs. That's going to become the wild, wild west of that. So, Robert, what are your thoughts on lifting that regulation?
Yeah, so I think I understand where they're coming from. I understand the reason for it, because definitely they need help, right? If without additional help, it's going to take them a lot longer, and a lot of homeowners can't get help. That's why they basically revert back to the Wild West. So basically, they're turning things back from government regulations to now back to buyers beware, right? So really, the customer really have to take that due diligence. Don't just take the words of a smooth talker salesman. Look at their reviews, even though they might be coming from out of town. Look at those reviews. Look at what other people have said about them, and because those is not as easy to fake, right? than just having a smooth talking salesman selling the job. So
you touched on something. I tell people, if you're coming in from out of state, make sure your website, you got reviews. If you come down and you've got one review and you're from Indiana and it happens to be a 3.1, they're going to check you out, especially if you're from out of town. And make sure your contracts need to be updated to cover anything that has to do with out of state. But I was living in Texas during what we called the mold is gold days. It was incredible. It wasn't uncommon around the year of 98 to 99 to see, Stewart, you weren't even born yet. You weren't, were you? When were you born? 81?
94.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So 90 to 98 it wasn't uncommon for you to get a call from, a carrier or an agent saying, I've got a client with mold, and you pull onto the street and there already be 3 or 4 other jobs going on with mold remediation. I lived in Houston at the time, and there were hotels, Residence Inn with Marriott's and corporate apartments that were full of communities of people who were all mold remediation customers, and they would have a happy hour around the pool. Like, talk about their contractors, talk about their insurance. I agree with you, Robert. Something had to be done. I just wish. I would love with the Alliance of Independent Restorers or some kind of bigger group where there's a bunch of people where we could put together Facebook ads and a campaign to get that in front of customers who might be searching for that keyword of mold, or get SEO up and have some bulletins, some position papers, some educational YouTube videos about just simple stuff to look for. Ask
right.
them,
Even simple checklists of things
simple
to check,
checklist
to interview your contractor. Or,
if they're not talking about containment, if you don't have them or hear them talking about a HEPA air scrubber or AFD with a negative, if they're not mentioning those things, and if they're talking about spraying it, buyer beware. If they're talking about spraying something and it's okay, or bleach water, probably need to search for a really regular company. And then of course they would say, well, who is that? And we would need to see if we could find some kind of database, go to the ICRC and find but you're only going to find people in that state that are EMRT, but that's a start. But I foresee a big issue for the next couple of years. And I just wanted to bring it up, and I was out there, Stewart's out there. I was watching people not testing for asbestos on houses, skipping all of those steps, and the crucial steps where we fall into, we're in this urgent mode. Well, listen, the fire's out, the plumbing has been fixed. Now we have a little bit of time to plan, do it the right way, and be the contractor that the customer hoped we would be, and that would be responsible and reliable and stuff like that. But it's already happened. I don't know how long it'll happen. I think we can wait and see. But like I said, I remember what it used to look like, and people were charging Stewart in the mold is gold days. I was seeing some $30 a square foot pricing on some of those small jobs.
Wow.
$30 a square foot, a 2,000 square foot home. Do the math. It was unreasonable. Then all the clothes, all the garments, everything in the entire house would get, HVAC units would get all ripped out, even if they showed no sign. Just the idea that they may have some spores in them without real legitimate data saying it was well within tolerable, like Instascope. If you'd had Instascope saying this is a tolerable amount. So, but here we are. I'm glad you're down there helping, Stewart. So is this going to extend your stay?
I have a Zoom call with our team today. I keep saying it. I said it last week. I'm going to be out of here, and then we got a call. We've been fortunate enough to get referrals from the insurance carrier, so they're like, "Hey, come fix this, come fix this." So I'm hoping to get back. I want to get back. Cali is. I'm a Cali guy, but there's clients here that still need help, and we're trying to help them out. So
it's a lot. It's a lot that need help. Well, I'm glad you're there helping, and a lot of people came down to help and left left home. It's not easy, especially if you don't do it a lot. Leaving home, leaving your families, leaving your friends, and going to a place you've never been. It takes a toll on your team, and it's not like working from home. They get a little bit more mental, a little more. Staying in a hotel gets old after a couple of days. But thanks for what you're doing. Any closing? I got a text from Adam. He said their internet actually went out at their office, so he can't. Oh, wow. He can't even get back on. So any topics that you're passionate about, what you're trying to do this year, anything before we close out? Robert?
Okay, so I just want to point out, I think going back to your very first topic, if you're like a new company, you're trying to figure out, how to best onboard and all this stuff. Definitely, I would recommend the Restoration Mastery Bootcamp. So Allied definitely have that down. They're big on processes. They have a sheet for everything. So, so definitely look into that. And they do have some online courses too that you can take if the bootcamp might not be coming up until maybe next year. So, but definitely look into that and learn from these guys. I think
good. Great point. Is that restorationmastery.com, Stewart?
Don't quote me on it, but Google Restoration Mastery.
I will tell you, and that's a good point, Robert. People need direction. If you can't make it to a boot camp, if you can't go to a course or you don't know where to go, I've always said, if you want to build an onboarding situation, remember that you're a customer, you're a consumer. What would it look like if you were having a home? Just forget for a moment that what flooding happens and you had a fire. What would be an exceptional service that you got from someone, and start from there, and then just get better and better. And then ask your customer always, what could we have done better? That's always my ending question. We're asking you for feedback as well as a review. What could we have done better to really make this a 6 out of 5 stars? Like, what could we have really wowed you with? And I've heard something about, And if you would have brought me a Starbucks every morning, if you would have mowed my yard, I was like, I probably should have done that.
Yeah, I think for us, I know the OP's word of the year for the company is underpin, right? And so for us, growing and learning there's never enough. And so for last year, we thought we had a great year. Even with COVID, we had an exceptional year of growth, 2 new departments, technically 3 new departments. But, we want to get better. And so underpin for us is the foundation. And so I think for those of you that are still growing, it starts with the core, what are your systems and processes that you have in place? And from there, take the claims experience, take a client and put them through your company and map it out. So then, this is the people that we'll interact with and reverse engineer it, right? How can I make that interaction better with each person? And I think that's a good start for someone that wants to grow and then service. I mean, it always comes back to building rapport and taking care of your client. That's what gets you more business.
Yeah. I'm a big, I get flack for this. I watch owners sending themselves all day long to every technical class there is. And I think technical acumen is very important. But I think at some point you need your team to be technical. You need to be putting that time into customer relations type things. You can go to the Ritz-Carlton Academy, or B, some businesses. So I, as a business coach, I see people who are great triple masters, but they can't keep their doors open because they don't know how to run a business. They know how to do a job. They know how to be in the business, but they don't know how to make it scalable so they can hire and help. I think you have a moral obligation. If you do a good service, you need to be able to, and I think Stewart says that too. If you do good work, you owe it to your community to be able to serve more people. Because if you believe, you don't want to go to the bad guy down the street, right? That does a terrible job and causes mold. So the only way you can do that is be profitable. Doesn't mean you have to be greedy. It just means that you have a fundamental accountability to be a profitable company, realistic profit margins, so that you can grow and scale and help more people and contribute in a bigger way. And I would tell people, stop racing to the newest drying class, because getting a little bit drier is not going to make you a little bit more money. Customers just say, I don't know the difference between that dry and this dry. I just want it dry, So I don't mean to put down any teacher or educator that does those things, because I think it's absolutely incredible, because I know that like doctors have to learn how to be a doctor. But if you're going to open a clinic, you've got to know how to run a clinic or hire someone that does. So that's my input. People ask me all the time, what can I do as a new restorer? Balance your education. Balance your education between acumen, but don't run from the things you don't know. Don't fear. Don't act like if I ignore that one thing that I'm not good at, it will go away. It won't go away. It'll actually manifest itself in a much bigger way later. So either, like Stewart said, and Robert, surround yourself with people that do things that you don't, or get really good at all of them so you can train more people. But it's not hard, but it's not simple.
Yeah.
Right.
Listen, you guys are absolute all-stars. I'm sorry, Adam, when you listen to this back, maybe we'll do something one-on-one, but I appreciate you guys taking time out of your schedule today. Stewart, be safe. I hope you get back to Cali soon. Robert, thanks for showing up always. Everything that you do.
No, thank you for having me.
Everything is top. Everything is top notch. And if anybody needs anything, if you're out in California and you want to learn about anything we talked about, I'm going to put links into the descriptions. You can get a hold of these guys through their Facebook channels or whatever.
Yep.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Clark.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Clark.